Right, good morning. I'd like to call to order the October 2nd Vision Zero Advisory Committee. Ruth, if you could please call the roll so we can establish quorum.
At this time, I'm only asking those VZAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of VZAC representative. As a reminder, please press your microphone button once to turn on and off. Bruce Rosenwig is excused. Mosey Abdur-Rachmanov.
Present.
Ted Goodenough.
In the house.
Joanne Scaria.
Here.
Fadi Nazar. Ryan Mugridge. JC Beery. David Willock.
Here.
Daniel Dunas. Vera Tekbali. Here. Simone Marcial. Thank you. Christian Santa Gonzalez.
Here.
Joel Rosales. Christine Perdomo. Tim Crespo.
Here.
Quentin Williams.
Here.
Tracy Phelps.
Here.
Stephanie Thoborn.
Here.
Claudette De Los Santos. Catherine Wall. Here. Jermaine Swaby.
Here.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay. Where's Jermaine on my list? Just want to make sure. Okay, are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
So we'll go on here to the next item. Are the minutes from July 3rd, our last meeting? Are there any changes to the minutes from the board? And if not, can I get a motion to adopt? Changes?
Motion to adopt.
Okay, that was David.
Second.
And Joanne, the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So the next is general public comments and public comments on agenda items. The instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Ruth, if there are any general comments that we've received?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we can move on to the next item, and that's comments from the board. And does anybody have any comments to share, any news that we can, I see Sunid, let me just introduce you because this is your first meeting and I met you at FAPA. And I've been excited to have you here because I've been asking about someone from Riviera Beach. Yay, because you're on US 1, we're all part of that, and welcome, and glad to have you. So since we're starting on that side, Mr. Goodenough, do you have anything to share?
With zero vision who, if you're presenting, when you think about saying, as you can see on this slide, no, not everyone can.
Thank you for that reminder. All right. Anybody on this side? Oh, Jermaine.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
wait. Yeah, Jermaine first, then David.
all right. So today would be my last meet in attendance. Moving forward, we're gonna have Chris Kimmerly. He's here with the green shirt, and he's the city's urban designer or downtown urban planner. So he has a wealth of experience, and he'd be a good addition.
Well, Jermaine, we're going to miss you and thank you for sitting with us and sharing your experience and knowledge with the board. Going anywhere, where are you going so we can follow you?
Well, I'm still staying, but I'll just be focused on what I'm doing.
Okay, well, welcome to the new person. I'm sure we'll see you next time. David?
Are you gonna stay our alternate though, Jermaine? Just
We'll see.
okay. I just want to encourage everybody to take the survey for the County Transportation Master Plan. I believe TPA has been sending it out. We've been getting a lot of responses, but we could deal with a lot more. So please, we're encouraging everybody and at people in your departments and such. We just want responses. We want to hear what everybody has to say. So thank you.
I took the survey. It only took 5 minutes. And I think as the Vision Zero Advisory Committee, we should really get our comments out there. So if you can send it to like-minded people, that always helps. Anybody else, Clinton? Anything from you guys? Christian? No? Joanne? Anybody over here? Kathy? Oh, sorry.
I think I shared with you last meeting, we were having a child passenger safety course. I wanted to share with you that we did have it last week. It was a 3.5-day course. We have 10 new nationally certified child passenger safety technicians. So we're very excited about that. Last Saturday was National Seat Check Saturday, and in conjunction with Riviera Beach Fire Rescue Station 87, we held an event. We had a law firm that sponsored, and we were able to provide over 60 car seats to families in need. And we checked over 20 car seats for families that want to just have their car seats checked. I also want to share with you that next Wednesday, the 8th, is our Walk to School Day. We'll be participating. Right now, we have 68 schools in the county signed up, and I think there's only a little over 120 in the state of Florida. So Palm Beach County is well represented. Our lead school will be Manatee Elementary, and you're all invited to come join us at 7 a.m. and cheer those walkers on as they follow the crossing guard and the school police, and the parents are cheering them on, walking safely to school. Thank you.
Great. I have one item. I wanted to invite everybody, and I'm going to send an invitation. We are having an East Coast Greenway and Riverwalk event next Thursday. And so if you know about East Coast Greenway goes from Calais, Maine to Key West. And our Riverwalk is part of it, and so is the Sun Trail. And we are going to be celebrating. There's going to be all kinds of VIPs like from the county and DEP and DOT. But we're going to be doing a designation of the new bridge. So you get to walk from the south side of the bridge, where we're going to have a little speakers and then unveiling, and then we're going to walk over the bridge, which 2 of the overlooks are fabulous. We have you'll get the background of the inlet and the lighthouse, and then we're having a reception at the lighthouse and catered, all that good stuff. So I encourage you, it's 2 to 5. So it starts at 2. We're going to walk across. If you don't make it to right at 2, just drive over or walk over, and you should walk over or rollerblade or whatever you want to do. But the bridge is beautiful, and we're so excited to have it. So it's also in conjunction with the Florida Greenways and Trails Council, which will be in Jupiter as well for that couple of days. So I'll be sending that out and hope to see you guys there. Anybody else? Are we good? Okay, so then we'll move on to the VZAC liaison report, and Brian's going to give us that report.
Thank you, Chair. To start, both item number 1 and 2, my thunder was stolen by Kathy and David respectively. So I'll just be brief for this liaison report. October 8th is International Walk and Roll to School Day. As Kathy alluded to, we have over half of the schools registered for this event in the entire state are here in Palm Beach County. So we're really proud to have that event going on. You can learn more at walkbiketoschool.org. Please do check out if you have schools that are going participating in this event. Go out and cheer for those kids. I mean, they're up, they're out. They're doing their thing really early, and they're trying to promote being safe and walking. And I think we all as partners would be really great to support them in that effort. We also have the ongoing countywide transportation master plan that is ongoing now with a survey that is live. So most of you should have already received, if you are a planner engineer with a local community, a survey about, what priorities you have to move forward. But additionally, there is a public input survey for members of the public, for technical stakeholders and others. So we would encourage everyone to go to pbcmoves.com to please take that survey, reach out to the project team, get involved. That will be a critical effort that's going to wrap up in June of 2026. The MPO is hosting the Walkable and Bikeable Communities Workshop on November 3rd from 2 to 4 p.m. You can register at Walk Bike Workshop on our website. As you all probably know, I'll just flip ahead just so it's not strange on here. The MPO is the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency was a brand and a doing business as business entity, which we are going to drop at the direction of the governing board. So we will be now known as the Palm Beach Metropolitan Planning Organization. That's the statutory name for us as an organization in Florida statutes and in the rest of the country. Most of the organizations that are similar peers are MPOs. So we're dropping our doing business as TPA, and we'll revert to our statutory name of MPO. So all of our links are going to change over on our website, or emails will change. Everything is going to be pretty seamless. You won't really notice very much. We're going to gradually transition all of our plans and everything over to our new logo and whatnot. But just so you see on the screen, you'll probably start seeing references to the MPO name coming throughout presentations and otherwise, but just to get everybody on the same page, that's something on the upfront for the entire committee's awareness. So continuing on with the liaison report, sorry to jump around, but we have our call for projects workshop, which is going to be held on November 7th from 9 to 10 a.m. That is where you will learn about the funding programs that we have for transportation infrastructure here in Palm Beach County: walking, biking, driving, transit, rail, transit infrastructure. We will have 2 funding programs that we are going to open up this year. We have the Transportation Alternatives Program, which I will be discussing later, and the Major Projects program as well. What is important about this also is that this will be the opportunity for communities to amend long-range transportation plan projects. So if you have additional projects that have been identified in your long-range plans, meaning not your capital improvement plans, this is a 25-year effort that we look at and we try to coordinate across the region. This is your opportunity to put those projects into the long-range plan and to help generate TPA support for projects as you pursue discretionary grants at the federal level. That's how you get our letters of support and our letters of consistency. We want to ensure that all of your projects for transportation, especially on the federal aided network, are in our long-range plan. So make sure that if you're going for funding or if you have new ideas about transportation projects, you attend that workshop. We're very proud to be hosted by Palm Beach Gardens on November 13th from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. We're going to be doing a transit-oriented development tour. Palm Beach Gardens has gone all out for us to accommodate breakfast and a series of presentations and getting out into the field to learn about how they're preparing for their future and their growth around a transit-oriented future. So please do consider joining us on that day. Seats are limited, so if you're planning to attend, please do register. We're also hosting a Dutch cycling transformation webinar. So for those of you who do not know, the Netherlands has not always been the cycling utopia that it is deemed to be now. They did go through a major transformational process as a country and a reframework of how they chose to move as a nation, and they're doubling down on it and seeing how the benefits of that. We're going to be hosting Melissa and Chris Bruntlett of the Dutch Cycling Embassy on a virtual webinar on that date and time. So please do register at Dutch Cycling Webinar, and we'll be happy to host you all and answer questions if you have any about that tour specifically. We are also hosting a downtown walking tour December 3rd from 4 to 5 p.m. So this is the day before our VZAC committee, but it is immediately after Citizens Advisory Committee. So if you were working with any members of the CAC, please do encourage them to participate. We will be learning about the downtown art, public places, and other programs that the city has used to encourage walking in the downtown. So that's a very fun tour that the DDA is hosting with the collaboration of the TPA. I've already maybe have a new speaker coming from our audience, so we can have like a cross-committee type event coming for you all. So please do register for that if you're available. Palm Beach County is going to be hosting a traffic management center tour on January 22nd. They're hosting us and we're facilitating the organization and registration for that. That's going to be January 22nd from 10 to 11:30. You can register at palmbeachtpa.org/TMC tour. For those who attended the Safe Street Summit this year in Palm Beach, thank you very much. We are a 3-county regional partnership that hosts this summit, and the summit is going to be hosted in 2026 in Fort Lauderdale under the name Safe Roads Summit from February 26th to 27th, 2026. Be on the lookout for an invite of that summit soon. One really important item for everybody that has been submitting and working with us on projects previously that are included in our list of priority projects coming up for you all to review is the draft tentative work program. Historically speaking, the MPO tries to get this document from FDOT before the committees meet in October. Generally speaking, that always isn't possible just due to how the calendar works out with the legislative session and how the schedules come to be, but this will be available for the governing board for their consensus. FDOT released this in late October and asked the public and your constituencies to review before going to our governing board. So this won't be an item that the committees will see, but the governing board will see it later this month. Please do be on the lookout for the draft tentative work program. We'll send an announcement to you all once it's published. And of course, we have our resources, our events, and our newsletters, web pages. Please do consider using these for your own purposes. Been a little long-winded, so I'm not going to cover those extensively because we have an agenda item about a few of them later. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments about the events.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian? No? Okay, so then the next agenda item is an action item, and it is the 2026 Transportation Alternative Program guidelines. And staff will present the draft program guidelines for the Transportation Alternatives programs, which are part of the agenda. And Brian Ruscher, again, Deputy Director of Multimodal, will present this.
Thank you. Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of the Palm Beach MPO. You'll have to keep me honest. I'm not going to say TPA. If I do, I have to put $1 in a jar. Here to present item 2A, 2026 Transportation Alternatives Program. So for those of you who are engaged and are working on transportation infrastructure, this is a very critical item for us. This is a more immediate funding program than our longer term funding program, which is called Major Projects. The program has been in place for decades, administered through the MPO, TPA, now MPO. We're really excited to have this program again and to dive into it with you all. If you have any questions, please do feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to try to be as elaborate as I can on this, but obviously there's a long detailed description and write-up of about 7 pages in the backup available for review. So diving in, the TA program overview. We generally fund on and off road system projects and safe routes to school infrastructure projects through the Transportation Alternatives Program. That could mean that we are working on projects like the El Rio Trail, if there are enhancements that need to be done off the roadway system, or if there are bike lanes, sidewalk projects, or otherwise transportation alternatives oriented projects. And the alternatives in that names generally means non-motorized. In terms of a timeline on the Transportation Alternatives Program, we are opening this up with the application deadline being February 13th, 2026. Design funding generally has to be committed by the local if you are prioritized for funding. And the following schedule of generally 2027. Construction is available for 2029 if you are selected. So there's a whole process that you have to take between this year, 2027, where you will take 2 years for design and then construction. This is a more or less a 3-year program. So it is a pretty accelerated effort to try to get infrastructure put in place. Major projects takes a lot longer to get through as a program. So this is one that we have a lot of excitement about. This is one that we generally get good projects in for. Last year, the program was, I would say, hyper competitive. It was we had 10 projects come in. We were able to fund 4 through this program, and we anticipate those 4 being fully funded for their request. The estimated available funding this year is $5.1 million. meaning that we can fund a few grants that are at the grant maximum of about 1.5 million. Some might not be able to meet that full maximum amount, but the grant minimum is 250,000. So this is a project funding resource that you'll be able to use within that range. If there are small projects, please come to us about them. We can find ways to try to make projects that are too small, raise them up to the minimum, and if projects are too large, we can find a way to try to get you more in line with that $1.5 million max. The program kickoff dates. We will start this program once the TPA governing board approves the program criteria on October 30th. From there, we are going to host a program application workshop. I already alluded to this earlier on the morning of November 7th. That's going to be entirely virtual. Please do not come to the TPA for that. And at that program workshop, we're going to cover not just the TA program, but also the major projects program and the long-range transportation plan amendments. Communities who are interested in applying to the transportation alternative program must have a pre-application meeting between the dates of November 10th and February 6th. And during that meeting, you must cover all of your projects in detail with TPA and FDOT staff. Projects that are not discovered, don't go through a good amount of discovery at this meeting between the MPO and between FDOT are not going to be eligible. We will not take them through vetting, even if we receive an application for them. So you must cover the meeting materials during a pre-application meeting between November 10th and November 6th. The application deadline, as I mentioned before, close of business, February 13th, not a day, not a minute later than 5 o'clock on that day and time. And then we anticipate disclosing which project rankings will come forward in the list of priority projects process to committees and board in July of 2026. From there, that's when we anticipate starting design for the projects that have been chosen for prioritization. With respect to the application process for transportation alternatives, there is a standard process for all of our funding programs, and that is through the FDOT grant application portal, which is called the GAP portal. There's a screenshot on the screen. It's just a login screen, so it's really not that detailed. But for those of you who maybe have worked in this program, it's maybe causes some concern because of previous history. It's not the most user-friendly interface, but it is a system that we are going to use this year as DOT requires it. And then we will be providing more information on this application on the workshop on November 7th. In terms of the facilities that we are looking to implement, the Transportation Alternatives Program funds capital projects. We do not fund operations for programs or otherwise, but the infrastructure that goes along with them can be used to support projects. And what I mean by that is if we are looking at developing sidewalks, or if we are looking at developing pathways, which is roughly less than 10-foot wide path, but still used for transportation type purposes, that's a really good opportunity to do safe routes to school improvements. So one notable example of that recently was the Dillman Trail. We hosted the city of Green Acres in a ribbon cutting and held a safe walk to school day that was separate from the international event. But we programmed that effort through our executive director's efforts with the city staff. We hosted an event and we had programming around it. So that it's always a good opportunity when you're thinking about the capital projects that you're doing to think about the programming on the back end as well. So walking through the bicycle facilities and the pedestrian facilities, generally speaking, we are shooting to implement miles of safe walking and bicycling infrastructure. So what that means is we are looking for mileage. That's how you get some of the highest scores in your application, is to ensure that you are providing adequate facilities that connect or close gaps. We are seeking separation of facilities. So if you're building bike lanes, you receive more score if you are building a raised or separated bicycle lane that is outside of the travel way and outside of the sidewalk way for pedestrians. And as you scale down in your separation for bicycle facilities from buffered bike lane to bicycle lane or shared use markings or shared use arrows on streets, you will receive less points or no points in that matter, depending on the context. For pedestrian infrastructure, we seek, generally speaking, again, separation through shared use paths. Those 10 feet or wider facilities get the most points. For pedestrians, they also get the highest points and with respect to separated bicycle lanes because they're a similar type of treatment. And then down from there, if you were building pathways, which are generally 10 feet or less to about 6 feet wide, that you get less points there because it's not as universal for people who are sharing this space. It becomes a little bit more difficult as there's pedestrians and higher speed vehicles. So we try to reinforce the separation between different uses and different speeds on the pathways itself. And sidewalks, they do also receive points, just not as high as other facilities that can be used for multiple purposes. Where we are looking for improvements are inclusive of generally the disadvantaged communities areas that are included on our high injury network that we've identified. So the TPA has ran an analysis that says these are the roadways that we really need to focus on if we are trying to accomplish Vision Zero. It's a pretty wide network, and there are categories within that network for walk, bike, dark, unlit to utilize and to capture points for. So if you have a corridor which is dark at night, has a lot of crashes as a result of those nighttime uses, has a lot of pedestrian and bicycle crashes, you might score higher if you're looking at that project compared to a project that is maybe off the system that doesn't have a lot of crashes, for example. There are other criteria as well that's included in the agenda backup, but generally speaking, those are some of the highest scoring metrics that we see across the spectrum for the TA program. In terms of the timeline, I talked about this before. This is really just a reminder of how you get into the program and into the process. You start with the funding program workshop on the 7th. This is going to be critical because you'll learn about not just the TA, but also the major projects overview, which was reviewed by your partner committee, the TAC. The application period between November to February is also critical, ensuring that you're getting your public meetings done. If you haven't started thinking about that, if you have projects already underway, make sure you have those prioritized in your individual work program. Making sure that you have your FDOT grant application portal username and password set up, ensuring that you have access to that system so that you are able to apply for multiple projects through the TPA, whether it be TA or major projects. And then your public involvement, ensuring that if you have anything in terms of single family homes, there are some specific sub criteria that you should pay attention to just to make sure that you're not missing things like mailers or otherwise to generate community support for the project. The application deadline, February 13th. And then beyond February 13th, there is a pretty good vetting process that FDOT participates in with projects. This is where we resolve some of those hanging and lingering questions that are not necessarily detailed in project applications. So project termini is really important for FDOT, wanting to make sure that we have stakeholder support if you're touching someone else's right of way. All of that gets worked out in the vetting process that generally occurs in spring. So just be aware of that. You do need to stay engaged through the vetting process. There's at least 2 or 3 rounds of vetting that we go through with communities and comment letters. That is really important and critical to making sure that this process moves forward. And we have a slideshow that has a few mishaps on it, but that's okay. Thank you. I wanted to just make sure that if there's anything else that you could please let me know. I'm happy to take any questions, any comments. And with that, I'd like to request a motion to recommend the 2026 TA program guidelines. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I think that picture looks familiar. Are there any comments, questions from Farah?
Thank you for that. I just had a question. I think you mentioned there was 4 projects that were approved before.
Yes.
Could you share what those were?
Yes. So the first ranked project was the Village of Palm Springs, Northeast 2nd Street from Lake Worth Road to Congress. That is a project which I believe is a shared use path and sidewalk project for about a little over a mile that they're coinciding with a stormwater project. We have Northeast, Clinton, help me out, is it 4th Avenue? From Northeast 4th Street, excuse me, from Swinton Avenue to 7th. And that is a traffic calming, sidewalk gap closure, traffic access project if it makes it through. There's a couple of key intersections because the project traverses US 1 that will be critical to making sure that that moves forward. We have the Palm Beach County has a project on Kirk Road, which is a shared use path. And I'm blanking on the fourth one, but those are, oh, Palm Beach Gardens Military Trail. Thank you, Joanne. Was also, they're building a shared use path on the east side of the roadway near the mall. Let's just say that. So there's a handful of projects that went forward last year. We have pretty good sample materials if you want to see some and you're interested in applying to some of those things. Generally speaking, transit access is available as a grant application too.
Fadi?
Yeah, my question is, are we somewhat addressing, the greater use of electric bike, electric scooters, potentially maybe allowing a golf cart to use pathways?
So we addressed this a little bit during our micromobility workshop that we hosted on the 10th of September. We talked with Dwayne Carver, who worked with State District Department of Transportation for years as a complete streets coordinator. He's now working in the private sector, but he's working on an update to the Florida Green Book, which is the rule-based manual that all local communities have to follow to really address this. And he gave a great overview of the updated American Association of State Transportation Officials manual for bicycle facilities. Generally speaking, the state and the national practices and national design guidance says these vehicles are very similar. So we try to reinforce where we can that width for the pathway as much as we can through our scoring criteria. We didn't change it from previous years, but again, the wider the pathway, the more accommodating that you can be. A shared use path, according to the information that we got from Dwayne, is generally designed to accommodate users up to 18 or higher miles per hour. So, those kind of faster people on a bicycle, e-bicycle, that type of use. But because it is a wider path and you have a little bit more flexibility in how you can define the space, you have that capability of accommodating those faster users as well. And as you go down in the width of the pathway, your design speed or design user really does get slower. So a sidewalk, for example, on the opposite end is meant to be designed for someone who's going at 3 miles per hour. So if you think about our sidewalk network, that many people who are bicycling, even without an electrified device, they're more than likely going faster. They're probably going like 8 to 12 miles per hour, give or take. So we already have facilities which don't necessarily line up with that. So we're trying to reinforce as much as we can separation between the uses and the width of the pathway to accommodate micromobility as it continues to come to Palm Beach County. Story is the same. Yep. And we don't necessarily, just to answer the question on golf carts, we don't have anything that says in terms of policy about golf carts using shared use paths. That's a local traffic code, but generally speaking, a tagged motor vehicle, one that's licensed, insured, and can go on the road wouldn't be seen on the shared use path. Golf carts, yes, those are, a different story because they're, not the same type of vehicle as something which has a license plate and insurance and all that other stuff. So we're not getting into that necessarily. That's more of a local policy decision, but we do try to build pathways which could accommodate golf carts if possible.
Yeah, I think my understanding, the county is probably considering allowing, golf cart on pathway, which is separate from low-speed vehicles.
Right.
We're not there yet, but I think there's direction.
Yes, and other communities that are looking at this is West Palm Beach. Town of Palm Beach has a pretty aggressive micromobility ordinance that they're working on. I'm still waiting to get a copy of it. That just went through first reading. And then there's a whole slate of research that the Department of Transportation did on communities that have ordinances already. Royal Palm Beach probably has the next best one to look at, or North Palm Beach, because they've had some instances of electrified mobility devices, whether they be high powered golf carts that kind of are between this low speed vehicle and golf cart and e-bikes going onto their golf courses. So they've also taken some pretty strong enforcement mechanisms and put those in place.
Anybody else? So are these guidelines, these appear very similar to the local initiatives criteria that we worked on in years past.
They are similar, but they're not totally the same.
Okay.
And that for the reason that major projects is used at a much greater scale to align with the long range transportation plan, which is required to think about things like freight movement, resilience, housing, performance measures in terms of safety on the federal aid eligible network, whereas TA has gone through a series of evolutions over the past few decades to really try to get into the active transportation world. So you'll see a lot more emphasis on safety in these TA guidelines. You'll see a lot more emphasis on pedestrian and bicycle facilities. There are also elements for rail, freight, TSM&O, which generally speaking, they're not going to score very well in the TA program. So they are different. They look the same because we try to reinforce a very particular style guide. So I'm happy to hear that maybe it's working. But generally speaking, they're very similar for the multimodal elements.
Okay. Do we have any more comments or questions on the guidelines? And if not, is there any public comments, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion on this item? Who wants to give me a motion? Joanne?
I'll make a motion to approve the item. I did have one small note actually on the submittal checklist. There is a requirement to have a meeting with the public, right? And that actually isn't noted on here. I think that kind of
Oh, great. We'll make
snagged
sure that
me
gets
last
updated.
year. We did have the meeting in time, but we had to kind of scramble to get it together. And there is like a requirement for a little handout. So that could be helpful for
Check
applicants
that
this year.
and make sure it gets
Yeah.
incorporated to the board packet.
And that would be my motion. Just add that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Body second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Goodenough dissents. All right, so the next item that we have is informational, and we'll be getting an update on Safe Streets and Roads for All. SS4A is the acronym. And again, Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, will present this item, and we'll have a discussion on what everyone's doing.
Certainly. So as we get the Safe Streets and Roads for All tracking sheet pulled up, just wanted to kind of mention that we were very hopeful to hear about the 2025 Safe Streets and Roads for All applications that the City of Lake Worth Beach, Village of Palm Springs, Village of Wellington, and City of Boca Raton submitted for. Lake Worth Beach and Wellington both submitted for implementation grants. Palm Springs and Boca Raton submitted for planning and demonstration in 2025 in the earlier cycle that we hosted this year, or that was hosted by FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration. For those of you who may not know, the federal government is currently closed. So we anticipate the award announcements that generally have come out, between October and November for the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. They might be delayed. So we're waiting to see what the FHWA guidance is going to say about that. We know that and are hoping for an additional cycle, although just as a heads up, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program was authorized through the bipartisan infrastructure law. They allocated a total of $1 billion per year, $5 billion total. And the surface transportation reauthorization bill should be coming up for this year. So we are waiting to see if that program is going to be renewed, the SS4A. We're hopeful for it. It's been a very great resource for all of our communities to work on. As a matter of history, we have 12 action plans that have been awarded to Palm Beach County municipalities or the county. Total of 12 grants, about 3 million. Planning and demonstration, we have 2 projects at about 8.4 million total. So this has been very helpful in moving the safety conversation forward locally. The Village of Wellington, Green Acres, and Palm Springs have all completed their Vision Zero action plan, which is great because they're already working on some of those strategies. Wellington has implemented what's called school zone speed cameras, and they've seen a notable decrease in speeding on the corridors that have been implemented already. We understand that there are others that are working on this right now. I believe there's 6 jurisdictions is what I've read in the news and are working towards it, including Green Acres. But if anybody wants to share their story about that, that's a great transportation system management and operations improvement that works on speed. So you'll hear a little bit about our speed management efforts at the TPA, but those were both identified in the Vision Zero action plan as improvements that could be done through the Florida statutes enabling that legislation. So from our grant perspective, we have a number of municipalities who are very close to adopting their Vision Zero action plan. Just wanted to give a shout out to Boca Raton for their work. They're pretty close. I heard that they're about 80% complete. They anticipate adopting over the next few months. We have recently Commission of City of Delray Beach approved their grant agreement. So we're working on getting that executed fully and getting their contract executed with a consultant to move that forward. City of Green Acres did adopt their plan. We heard about this in July, but they're working actively on their elements. City of Palm Beach Gardens, I've heard that they're shooting for a November adoption of their plan. So the next time we meet, we might have both Palm Beach Gardens and Boca Raton having adopted their Vision Zero action plan, which will be really great for everyone. We have Palm Beach County and the City of West Palm Beach actively working towards getting out into the public on their plans. Palm Beach County is planning to host a virtual open house soon. They're working on recommendations for the county's road system and state road system. They're going to possibly adopt by the end of 2026. And West Palm Beach is working on getting their public meeting schedule put forward. We do have a number of communities that have had challenges between the federal administration changeover. I don't want to shy away from that fact. We are trying as hard as we can when the federal government is open to ensure that if there are delays in your application, to please reach out to us. We will be in touch with our FHWA liaison, and we will help move your grants forward. So I don't want to let you all feel like you are left behind just because the federal government had an administrative changeover. We're still anticipating all of the grants that have been awarded through the SS4A program be funded. Although there are some other federal grants that have been pulled from the FHWA, we haven't seen any of our grants that have been awarded locally impacted. So we're tracking that. We're trying to ensure that nobody's going to lose out on the commitments that were obligated previously, and working with FHWA to make sure that all of your agreements are executed fully and you can get underway on your plans. I do have one community that has asked for help. So if anybody has a really great way to address their workforce housing and their workforce training elements that were part of the grant, please do reach out to me, because one of your partners is struggling and they're not represented on the TPA's committees because their jurisdiction is too small. So please do let me know if you have had to overcome that locally and how you overcame it. Happy to help. But with that, that's really the update that I have. If anybody else has anything different, I try to reach out ahead of the meeting so we don't have a long labored discussion. So anybody else have any other updates? Then I'll turn it back over to Stephanie if anyone has any questions or comments.
Anybody? Oh, Joanne?
I'm just curious what the implementation grants are that Lake Worth Beach and Wellington were going after. Do you have any information on what those projects were?
I can't speak to Palm Beach. Well, I can't speak to Wellington, but I can speak a little bit to Lake Worth Beach. They actually went through a series of efforts. They didn't actually go after an action plan. So it's quite impressive that they just took all of the planning efforts that they had underway and they said, hey, FHWA, you have a process for vetting our plans that we went through. They coalesced them all. They showed how they met all the requirements for implementation, and they're using them largely on traffic calming, ADA, sidewalks, and there could be other elements as well. I just didn't get into too much details, but that's kind of the summary that I have. Wellington, I'm not exactly sure what their grant was on. We didn't get the full details, but we were asked to provide a letter of support for all of these. And if there are others out there, let me know. We don't want to miss anybody. Sorry, I'll see if I can get more for you though.
Clinton?
Yeah, my question was, with the federal shutdown, should we have any impacts to getting projects started or, like the funding or anything like that right now, or it's too early to tell?
I think it's too early to tell. I think if I'm hoping that your FHWA representatives reached out ahead of time to be in touch, because this also coincided with some resignations that happened at the FHWA too. So do be on the lookout for that. We haven't heard anything from FDOT, but if we're still in the circumstances that we're in December and all of you are waiting to get like a notice to proceed or something else similar, let us know and we can reach out to our FHWA liaison and see if they are able to respond. And our FDOT contacts also have good relationships with FHWA too that might be able to assist.
David?
This isn't directly related to the program, but you guys have been doing like walking tours around schools, and it kind of brings attention to some of the issues that generate these the points that are brought up in the action plans, put it that way. And I don't know if there have been any for the past year. I did them 2 years ago just because I had time. Last year, a bunch were in summer, and I just didn't have time.
Right.
But are you guys planning on doing those again?
We do have a strategic plan item for this fiscal year that we are going to have a supported effort that will focus on some statutory language called potentially hazardous walking conditions. So if you haven't seen that statutory language, it basically calls out elementary schools and says, if you have a certain threshold of vehicles per day in front of that school or during like the AM pickup, PM drop off, or if you are near intersections with certain characteristics and no crossing guard, we are going to produce a full data set that will have all of the maps and our federal aid eligible network. We're looking into getting the local street network also mapped through open data sources now through OpenStreetMap and otherwise. And then we'll identify key priority projects and go out and do walk audits with those schools. And we're planning to have Dan Burden, who's kind of like the godfather of walking audits, come out and join us for those as well. So they'll be more than likely in the spring or winter when we have those audits. Yeah.
Perfect.
No summertime walk audits, especially around schools, because you actually want to see how many kids are out and using the facilities.
Right.
So
Okay, great.
Anybody else? Body? Have anything? Well, I want to talk about the county just because we didn't get a Safe Streets grant for planning, but because the county got one, the county reached out to us and we were able to bring up the issues on the county roads that were significant. And one of those was Central, and then the other was Center Street, which both had recent fatalities. One was a school age child, and then the other was someone who was walking for transportation on Center Street. So I really appreciated that, in terms of priority, that the county was able to get their grant so that they can reach out to all the different municipalities and help. And then we'll apply again. I guess they ran out of money. That's what the email said, but I thought that was a very good process, and we were happy to be involved. So if there isn't anybody else on that, we can.
thank you.
Are we good?
We're
Anything
good.
more?
If you have updates for me between now and December, our meeting on the 4th, I want to say it's on the agenda. We'll correct it later. If it's not the 4th, let me know.
Ruth, are there any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. And then the next item is crash reporting toolkit and safety resources.
Yes.
And staff will provide an overview of the newly created crash reporting toolkit as well as other safety resources available, which I've been on it. It's really user friendly. So
Great. That's-
Brian Rusher again.
Yes, sorry, it's the Brian Show today. Here to talk to you about the safety reporting tools that we have available online to people to utilize for their own purposes, whether it be professional, personal, or working to try to better our communities and how we talk about crashes. So I have a few resources that I'm going to go over in detail, and I hope that you all will take them, share them, and please ensure that the word gets out about them. First up is the crash reporting toolkit. So this actually came from our public involvement team. Carly had a very strong hand in making sure that this got delivered and it was very well produced, coordinated with stakeholders and internally. So the TPA's, or excuse me, dollar in the jar, MPO's crash reporting toolkit really emphasizes how we talk about crashes and how crashes and the information around crashes sometimes isn't necessarily fully complete. And we looked at crash reports from Signal 4. We looked at crash reporting from news providers, from social media for transit operators and otherwise. So this is something that really takes all that information and really tries to put out a better nomenclature and use of language around crash reporting, whether it be the information distribution side or crash reports, meaning how we write crash reporting when a crash occurs. Who should be using this toolkit? We want to reinforce that Vision Zero is a collaborative effort. It's not just something where if you're a planner and engineer, it's your responsibility to fully implement Vision Zero, and on behalf of your community, you will not be successful. Vision Zero is required across all disciplines and across all professionals and the community to talk about crashes and to use the information wisely. So yes, planners, engineers should use this information, but also emergency medical professionals, law enforcement, and information distributors can use this information to get a better understanding of what needs to go into a crash report. And when the information is distributed, where to get information about crashes that have occurred on our system, and of course, elected officials as well. How we talk about crashes matters. So we have a couple of instances, obviously, of recent reporting that we could talk about, which have been really great. We have a couple of instances that haven't been very great. So, I mean, we want to make sure that we're reinforcing, the direction that we should be going in as a community. So a couple examples discussed on the screen include PBSO alluding to a man, 68, drove under the crossing gate before being struck and killed by a right lane train. This information and this reporting has taken a lot of time to get to a really good place. Some of the earlier reporting around bright line trains, if you look at the nature of the crash and all the information and the context that were surrounding some of those incidents, it led to us having a large bias about how crashes are put on one side or the other. When Vision Zero says we are a system of designers, system users, elected officials, information distributors, emergency response professionals. We want to be as comprehensive in our reporting as possible and as comprehensive in developing crash reports as possible. So whether you share information on your social media, whether you work with your public information officers for this information, this will help you as a resource get that information and tell a more complete story about key facts, what infrastructure was possibly missing, were there any witness accounts, and other information and questions that you should be asking before we go and talk about a crash that has occurred, especially those that resulted in a serious injury or a fatality. When telling the complete story, you want to include information such as, were the conditions of the road good or bad? Where there are some streets out there that are wonderful pavement, wonderful stopping conditions, but if roads are rutted out or if they have alligator cracking or other conditions that really decrease the stopping power of a motor vehicle, that's a contributing factor potentially in a crash. Is there a documented history of the road being a part of the high injury network? Are we thinking about this in terms of if multiple crashes are happening in dark or unlit conditions, or if there's a high preponderance of people crossing at an unsignalized or unmarked location? Why wasn't there a crosswalk there, historically speaking? What's the speed limit of the road? Is that speed limit appropriate for the context of that street, or do we need to relook at that and reevaluate it through something like a target speed initiative? This is all put into one package with a lot of resources about where you can learn more about these kind of conditions, some really quick brochures that are included from our partners at the state and DOT about pedestrian information, biking information, and driving. So as I alluded to before, this is about where you can find this information, the relevant statutes and otherwise. Don't want to miss that as a critical part of this. So I'm going to jump now to talk about speed if there are no questions about the crash reporting toolkit. So I see some, so I'll take a pause. Patty, if you don't mind.
But, I'm checking your site and I like that you added the human behavior part,
Mm-hmm.
but I know there is driver action related to pedestrian that's not mentioned in your human behavior. I know maybe it does not apply to cars, but it's nice to know when you have pedestrian or bicycle crash to add those
Human behaviors as well.
basically driver action or whatever they call it.
Mhm.
So at least we know what happened, who's at fault.
Right, right. And we have a good, I think you and I understand that the crash reports that are there don't always tell the most complete story. The data, you have to really glean it, go through it, clean it up. The county's done a wonderful job at cleaning that up. So we appreciate that effort on your end. We're trying to get there as an agency, but obviously not as well resourced. So that's one element. So good comment. Thank you. Any others before I jump into speed management? I promised that I would get certain individuals out by 11, so I'm going to make sure that we do it. We also have the speed management study that we completed as both a Vision Zero action plan item from the previous iteration that we had before we updated our current plan, and a TPA governing board from the TPA at the time, strategic plan priority. The speed management study, the goal of this is really to identify a methodology for figuring out what we should aim for streets to be operated at. So we looked at non-motorist activity. We looked at level of traffic stress. So what is activity and traffic stress? Non-motorist activity is generally how many people are using the streets. We use big data to get that information from our consultant. Traffic stress relates to the anticipated user group based off of the facilities that are out on the street. So if it's a 6-lane road, that's high speed, high volume of cars, it's going to be very high stress for either pedestrians or bicyclists. If it's a very low volume street with a nice facility for a bikeway, you'll see that it might be more comfortable. You'll have more people likely to use it. A wider range of people would be less stressed by attempting to use that street. We also use the number of lanes and context classification for the streets. The reasoning for this is that the Department of Transportation has a target speed methodology that they post through the Florida Design Manual. And that's a fancy way of saying the state has guidance of this already. So we try to incorporate that as well and apply it to the local context with transit ridership data, level of traffic stress data, non-motorist activity data, as well as the high injury network to come up with an outcome of where target speeds should be throughout Palm Beach County. What this really is getting at is posted speeds are often, something that's on that white sign. People see it, but depending on the road design, you will drive faster or you will drive slower than that posted speed. Target speed is about closing that gap between the posted speed and what people actually will drive. So what we did is we came up with a non-authoritative, meaning we can't really say, hey, go redo your street and post a target speed or post an operating speed. That's different. This is just a planning level document, but it comes up with a assignment of a preliminary target speed that can be used by partners. And as we go through projects and evaluate them in the major projects in the TA process, to say, hey, this roadway was identified as a corridor that has a higher operating speed than what may be reasonable, and our target speed was X miles per hour. So generally speaking, as you go further east in the county, you get more urbanized, the target speed would be lower because you have a higher level of pedestrian, bicyclists, and other maybe even transit user activity. But as you go further west, the target speeds would be higher because the context of the roadways changed pretty substantially. Further, there were roadways which we did not feel comfortable assigning a preliminary target speed to. Southern Boulevard is a really great example where we changed dramatically from a agricultural to rural to suburban to almost urban context as you go further east. There are a handful of corridors that are like that. Mostly your east-west corridors that are more than 6 lanes. Those are roads that require a much, much greater level of detailed study that we couldn't come up with just using a desktop analysis. So some example countermeasures. These are not representative and applied in any particular order to those on the screen. However, we do have some really great effectiveness that has been reported on for speed management and for serious injury and serious fatality management from our example countermeasures. So starting from the top, separated bicycle lanes and shared use paths. We spoke with FDOT on Monday about the recently implemented Lake Worth Road, separated bicycle lanes from Rollerson to Palm Beach State College. There have been 0 serious injuries, 0 fatalities for any users implemented on that corridor, which is a really great improvement. We're really hopeful for that. There are still property damage only crashes that are occurring, but we think that that can be managed with other minor improvements and visibility enhancements on that road. We also have sidewalks, traffic access management through either median refuge islands, mid-block crossings, center lane hardening, or other improvements that really help to reduce the speed and control for a better use of the roadway. There's obviously speed humps and raised intersections, which are somewhat polarizing for some communities. But, you know, that is a recommended speed management strategy from the state. So we did include that. This is, again, just an example representative list. It's not really the full gamut of what's available. It's just what, you know, we kind of picked out to talk about for today. Lastly is TSM&O, Transportation System Management and Operations. We already spoke earlier about the Village of Wellington. A number of jurisdictions are also looking at speed cameras. That is a really, really quick implementation tool that communities can use to decelerate traffic around our most vulnerable population, young children. And it's been successful for those communities. I saw an article about Miami-Dade County has had over 250,000 non-moving violations already issued for their area. So I know Wellington has had success for the areas that they've deployed it in, but you do generally want to implement a study before going through that. So there's a process laid out in the statute for communities to use that are available to you. We can have a discussion about it if you'd like afterwards, but that's one effective TSM&O improvement. So just to close out this piece, we do have a couple of corridors that we did identify where there were pretty substantial differences between the operating speed and the target speed that we preliminarily assigned. Forest Hill Boulevard, roughly from Congress to east of Interstate 95, Martin Luther King Boulevard, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and President Barack Obama Highway, Riviera Beach, Wellington Trace in Wellington, the Lake Ida Road, Canal Street, US 27 out in Belglade. And there are other information and resources. We have a good executive summary on the website and a very in-depth technical summary if you want to nerd out. But otherwise, that's the general overview of our speed management study. So any questions on that tool quickly before we go and close on our crash dashboard? Yes.
One comment about the posted speed. You know, up to now, I think the procedure has always been for measure corridor to base it on the 85th percentile speed for 2 main reasons. The first one is that study showed to be the safest speed.
Mhm.
And second, if you put artificially kind of lower speed, first it's hard to enforce.
Mhm.
And second, you create a greater variation in speed, which is make the road less safe. I know there's the new MUTCD, the latest version 11 that provide more flexibility in determining the posted speed. And we are still waiting for DOT to update their manual. I think they have up till December to
Mhm.
come up to either adopt it or come up with something similar. And we at the county are sensitive to that. And we're gonna, as much as we can, start integrating context, you know, other stuff and
Mhm.
determining the posted speed while making sure it is a safe speed. We definitely don't want to put artificially lower speed, but we want to be more sensitive. And I'm going to give one example. There is Blanchette Road, which is north of Lake Worth Road. 85th percentile speed is very high, but it's very close to residential. But we realized that that road should not have extremely high speed. So we went ahead and we lowered the speed so we can add 2 speed hump. We're going to be constructing them in the next months. So yeah, we're going to be more sensitive.
Mhm.
We're going to try to work, figure out not only reducing posted speed, but also try to figure out what else we could do to make the road feel, you know, to be driven at that particular speed. And as soon as DOT finalize their document, either adopt MUTCD or come up with something similar, we're probably gonna adjust our policy too.
Right. We got that. We had similar feedback from FDOT, and that's one of the reasons why we couldn't assign preliminary target speeds to many of the more suburban, larger arterial roads. So Southern Boulevard is a great example. It's practically a limited access roadway in some sections. And when I say limited access road, it kind of operates like an interstate, but there's still some traffic signals that are kind of lingering there, which prohibit from, really being something that moves a lot of people very quickly. That was run corridor where we wanted to come up with a preliminary target speed, at least for the urbanized section. But because of the challenges of modifying Southern Boulevard to actually get the speed to an appropriate target speed, we couldn't come up with a recommendation because there would be too many physical modifications necessary for us to look at as part of this study. And that's where a more in-depth look was necessary. So you should, if looking at these things and trying to control for speed, certainly make physical modifications to the corridor if you're considering adjusting the speed. I believe we used the 50th, 85th, and 90th percentile for speed, which is what our consultant recommended based off of what their direction is getting. They're moving towards in central office. So if that's any indicator, that's where we were trying to land and using some of these for preliminary assignments.
Great. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Do you have more, Brian?
I have just one brief slide.
Okay.
For those of you who would use Signal 4, Crash Analytics from the University of Florida, that is a very authoritative resource if you are doing engineering studies, if you want to get crash information for your uses in your professional realm. But if you want a very quick and easy way to show where crashes are occurring in a heat map and get very quick data from charts, graphs, maps, and other information, I believe that this is available in an accessible format. So you'll be able to use this dashboard and kind of hear about the statistics that are there and use those and use that information, share it with your individuals or stakeholders. So if you have a corridor, you have something you want to see and you want to share information about with your local community, say, hey, we need to do something about Congress Avenue and generate public support for it. You can show, hey, I want to look at Palm Springs, for example, Congress Avenue, which is off the road off of where I live. I want to see what types of crashes are happening and where. This is a tool that you can use without having to go to Signal 4 Analytics to get a better understanding if there are true crashes. Now, you have to take it with a little grain of salt. We don't do as much post-processing as I would like, but if you're trying to get at trends, and if you're trying to see what just general information is out there about the crashes, this should give you a very good resource for that measure. So I just wanted to remind you all that this is there. We're working to get 2024 crashes uploaded into the platform. We have to make sure that we do our process to clean as much as we do and before we integrate it and work with the healthcare district. I'm sorry, Ashley was not able to participate today, but if you participated in our micromobility workshop last month, you got a snapshot of what the healthcare district is working on for crashes that are not reported. So we currently only show crashes that have been reported to police, not those that are people who are just going to a trauma center after they said, I got hit by a car and they drove off, or a car hit me, but they drove you to the hospital and there's no crash report that's associated with it. So we are working to get data that is non-crash report oriented into this dashboard, or at least a link or something once that platform is available for public consumption. If you have other suggestions and you want to do a tutorial, we're happy to do a walkthrough with you all as well. So with that, I'm done. My voice is fried. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Brian, can you go back to the last slide?
Yes.
So I was looking at the crash events. Think it's very interesting. However, I was thinking that the added element could be what the severity is with regards to each type. That would kind of give a picture as well.
Yeah, so we have on the left side of the screen, and I apologize for using that term, displayed on the screen, on the very left column, it shows road users seriously injured, by pedestrian 450, bicycle 250, motorcyclist 421, and 3.1 thousand motor vehicle crashes. And then beyond that, the column to the right of that says road users killed, with pedestrians at 244, bicyclists at 50, motorcyclists at 131, and motor vehicle drivers at 539, or 539 road users killed. That is represented across 219,000 crash reports, or crashes, I should say, excuse me. So you have to be careful about our language when we say crashes, people killed, number of crashes, or number of incidents, because they are different. But we do have some severity metrics that you can use. This is just a dashboard snapshot. You can click through different parts of the dashboard so you can see crash type. We have things for severity. We have breakdowns for time of day. We align with the FDOT's emphasis areas reporting, so we try to show those as well. There's lots of things that this dashboard can do that I'm not showing right now. We gave a snapshot at our Vision Zero workshop and a preview back in June, and then this is available and we can do a walkthrough as well.
So we used it recently when we did Center Street workshop, and we got the data generally, but you can go in and actually click on individual incidences and see what happened. And then we looked at the comparison, because we had some residents saying, that's not right. And so we went back to police data. So you're able to go and dig a little deeper, and then you can get with your police department as well. But it worked pretty great for us, and I'm thankful that it's there and all in one place, because you can, when I think about what Brian and everyone does, Carly and Ruth, and what is presented to us as I sit here and listen, I think of it as nuggets of information that I bring back to our communities, whether it's opportunities, new information. Oh, Christian's doing something similar, has a similar road. And then, I could talk to Christian about it, and having all these opportunities as a, a point where we talk amongst ourselves, and then understand we're not alone. So I appreciate all the work you guys do and bringing us all this information. It is a lot because we haven't met since July, but every time we do it, there's good things to come in here and talk about. Mr. Goodenough, you have something?
Yeah, it's along these lines. October is White Cane Awareness Month, and just to let people know that if you don't give right of way to a person who has an extended white cane or a guide dog, it's a $250 fine. It's 3 ticks on your license, and possibly 30 days of volunteer activity for a nonprofit that helps persons with visual disabilities. And in that same respect, you're going to save a life, because I'll never cross Okeechobee, because at least once a year there's a fatal accident at the intersection of my development and Okeechobee. Thanks.
Thank you
Thank you,
for
Ted.
your reminders. And Ruth, are there any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Did you have anything else, Brian, for us to share?
I did make a mistake in the liaison report, as I missed an item that was presented to TAC and to VZAC by the Turnpike Authority. And I wanted to make the VZAC aware that they're going to host a virtual public meeting on October 20th at 6 p.m. That is for the Turnpike connection north of Palm Beach County. So for those of you who have to make that turn at Indian Town Road to get from the Turnpike over to 95, they're going to be building a connection north of the county, which will be a direct connection between the Turnpike to 95. So you no longer have to get off of a limited access road to a signalized street. And they're hosting that PD&E study workshop October 20th, virtually at 6 p.m. They do have an in-person meeting October 21st at Indian River State College at the Technology Center in Stewart off Salerno Road. The virtual meetings at 6, in-person meetings at 5:30. That is available on the Turnpike website, floristurnpike.com. So I apologize for missing that for our partners' benefit. That's it.
So FloridaTurnpike.com is where you could sign up.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the next item are administrative items. We don't go through them. They're informational. There's no staff presentation. So we're going to give Brian a break. And the governing board summary is in the back, as well as the FDOT scheduling report. Our next meeting is December 4th. And it is 10:44. This time we are adjourned if there's not anything else. Thank you so much, everyone.